Hi, guys. Nice to see you all. Welcome back. Welcome back. Oh my gosh, everyone. Our guest is here.
Hi.
Hi, Julia. Welcome.
Thank you.
I have a slide for you. All it says is welcome, Julia. Hold on, hold on, hold on. Interview with a stylist. Welcome, Julia.
Thanks so much.
All right, so Julia, what you will see is that we have a class here of participants, of students who are joining, and they're chatting with us, and then sometimes we can call them up to speak.
Okay,
So
cool.
what we have just talked about is different styles and types of clothing in English.
Okay.
So we talked about how there's streetwear, there's activewear, there's formal wear, and business attire.
Yeah.
And then we talked about 5 different styles. We did classic, we did preppy, in which case I emphasized the Argyle sweater vest as an important vocabulary word.
Yeah.
We did
All right.
goth. We did, guys, what else did we do? What am I missing? Boho chic.
Okay.
And casual chic, which, just to catch you up on what we've been talking about. So everyone, we are so honored to have with us a New York City-based stylist who's going to share everything about her job with us. And I want you guys, as you listen, to prepare. If you have any questions about being a stylist or becoming a stylist or just any fashion questions at all. Sound good?
Cool.
Okay, Julia, so please, can you introduce yourself to the class?
Sure. So my name's Julia. I live in the Chinatown neighborhood of New York City. I've been here for about 8 years now. It'll be 8 years in October. I moved here after university, and immediately my first job out of university was working for a menswear company that created clothing for men that was quite preppy. Use that vocab word. And was somewhat hunting inspired. So that was always the inspiration that they used when they were designing their collection. And shortly after that, I started working for a women's wear company that their main focus was creating knitwear. And so part of my job had me travel often to Peru, because that's where all of our factories were. And we had our factories there because they had a lot of Pima cotton, a very soft type of cotton that grows there, and alpaca, those animals that look like almonds.
Do you guys know what alpaca are? The animal alpaca?
I'm gonna see if I can open the chat here too and move it to the side so I can see. Oh, Celia, thank you so much.
Yep, people are telling you you're very beautiful.
Oh, that's so nice.
So, Julia, tell us, what does a stylist do? Like when you are on a photo shoot, what do you do?
So it's funny. Yes, a stylist is most often used on the day of the photo shoot, but my job actually starts many days to a few days before. So I have to make sure that all of the clothing in the collection is accounted for and is going to be photographed. I have to make sure that that clothing fits all of the models. I have to be sure that if the brand is only showing dresses, that those dresses are put into context. So I will choose shoes, perhaps a handbag, a purse, sunglasses, a hat. So I make like the whole outfit come together. And so I have to do a lot of planning and a lot of shopping sometimes to prepare for that photo shoot. And then when I'm on set, usually my day starts with steaming and ironing all of the clothing, making sure that it looks perfect, that it will photograph well, because there's nothing worse than something being wrinkly, with lines all over it. And then I'm just like all hands on deck. I usually have an assistant, and we dress the models. We put on their shoes. It's a tight dress, we make sure it's zipped up to the top. We make sure everything looks perfect before they go in front of the camera. And as they're posing, I have to make sure that everything is staying in place.
And do you think being a stylist means you need to know exactly what is fashionable, like in that moment, the most fashionable way to wear something?
Yeah, I'd say for the most part, and I see that someone thinks I'm talking a little too fast.
It's okay. You're talking just fine.
I will slow it.
They can rewatch it on YouTube. It's something we talk about at the beginning of the class.
Okay.
Don't mind the chat so much. The chat gets very
okay. Well, in New York, we do talk very quickly. So I will try to adjust a little bit. So yeah, I'd say that it depends on who my client is and who I'm working for. Some people are hiring me because they want it to look the most modern, the most contemporary, the most fashionable, the most stylish, the most trendy and up to date. And other people hire me, let's say it's a brand of clothing that's not for young people. It's for older people, or it's, for men. And the men want, the men who buy their clothing are a little bit more conservative. Then I have to make sure that the styling reflects what the brand is trying to communicate to their buyer.
So that's like a more classic style where they want the timeless look.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Yeah. So Julia, how would you describe your style? You can use you could use the 5 styles I have supplied. Boho, goth. But I also, when we talked about the definition of style, we said that a new style is named every year, maybe every month. So you can use a name for the style, but then tell us, like, what does that look like? Is it t-shirts? Is it jeans? So that we can learn about it.
Yes. So I would describe my style as quite casual. Okay. I never need to wear high heels. I never need to look feminine or chic, really, because my job is quite physical. I have to be comfortable. And that is like my number one priority as I'm walking through the streets of New York, because I typically walk many miles every day, whether it's for leisure or for work, for preparation. So I wear sneakers, sandals if they're comfortable. I'll wear jeans, t-shirts, tank tops if it's hot like it is right now in the summer. And I need it to be easy. And I don't want to think about what I'm wearing too much. So it is kind of funny that so much of my job and my occupation is tending to all the little details of clothing and what someone is wearing. But for myself personally, it has to be easy, comfortable, and simple.
I know that must be interesting. When people learn that you're a stylist, do they expect you to wear much like bigger, bolder clothing? Are they surprised to see that you like a casual style?
I think that I still look put together. I still look, like there was some thought behind what I'm wearing. So people aren't usually shocked, but I think they typically say, no, that makes sense. There's something about the shoe that she's wearing, or something special about that specific casual t-shirt that for some reason speaks to my being a stylist.
So It's a very fashionable casual.
It's a fashionable casual.
Very fashionable casual.
Yes.
Okay, very cool. You guys, if you have questions, start writing them in the chat. I have tons of questions, but if you want to ask anything, that's fine. But Waleed is letting you know, Julia, that he has a lot of respect for the I have to be comfortable style. And I think it's also good for people to realize that a job as a stylist, you must work however long the photo shoot is, which can be, how long do photo shoots go on for?
I would say a short photo shoot is 10 hours.
Wow.
So I usually arrive just before my dog is very much wanting to be a part of this chat.
We love dogs.
We'll just quickly let her say hello.
Okay. Well, introduce her. Who is it?
I'm so sorry. Maria, come here. So this is Maria. Maria, for those of you who speak Spanish. She is almost 2 years old, and she is a Chihuahua that I adopted. And she originally was from Tennessee in the south of the United States.
Oh.
And she's very sweet.
Wow. Okay, Julia, we're getting some great. Oh wait, did you finish your answer? A typical
a typical photo shoot, a short photo shoot is 10 hours. Okay. So I will be there from 8 a.m. until 6 p.m. Okay. But I've been on many photo shoots that went 16 hours. And so I'm on my feet all day. I'm with a hot iron or a hot steamer, and I always have to be prepared. It's a lot of work. So yeah, you do have to be comfortable.
Okay. So we have a question from Fatima Zora, who wants to know, do stylists only style clothing, or do you also style hair and makeup? Well, she just said hair and adding makeup.
Yes, that is such a good question. So to put it into context, I am a wardrobe stylist. So I only concern myself with the clothing. On the set of a photo shoot, there's also a hairstylist, a makeup artist. There's typically, sometimes if the hands are being photographed, there's a manicurist to make sure that the nails look nice.
Wow.
There's a photographer, and there's many assistants too. There's so many people that need to be involved in order to make it a success.
Okay, very cool. Someone asked a great question that I would love to know the answer to, which is, can you advise us how to be fashionable and also feel comfortable at the same time? And just so you know, Julia, Algeria tends to be a more formal society. Yeah. So much more formal than the US in terms of what's required, both at work, but even in like free time. So how do we get more comfortable?
Well, it's funny. I feel like I would put that adjective first before, like that should be the first thing that you're thinking about when you're getting dressed. I think if you're looking through fashion magazines, or you're reading a fashion blog, or you're looking at what people are wearing, like street style photos on Instagram, I shouldn't say, I'm not going to use the word should, but if you see something that you like, something that strikes you as something you want to incorporate into how you dress or how you express yourself through clothing, you should experiment with it, but always make sure that before you leave the door, you're comfortable. Because if you're not comfortable, you're not going to look confident, you're not going to be confident. And I think that like on it, comfort and confidence is how you project that you look good. So it's more about how you feel rather than what you're wearing. But feel free to experiment.
I love that. I've never thought about that. If you're actually comfortable, you'll look and appear more confident.
Yeah,
as opposed to, I think this is a good dress. I think it's fashionable, but it's really itchy, or it's too tight. I'm going to walk around and I can't breathe all day, but do I look good? And it's probably on your face that you're uncomfortable.
Exactly. You'll look good if you feel good.
Okay, that's great. Someone here has asked, do you think Americans like fashion? Maybe since you've worked in Europe, you've worked in Latin, South and Central America. I don't know if did you do some work in Morocco at one point?
That was just vacation.
Okay, so where do Americans, are we fashionable, Julia? Tell me, as a fellow American.
That's funny. I think people are fashionable where there is a perception that that is important. I think that, people in Paris, for example, would describe Americans as very unfashionable. And me living in New York, I might look at what my mother's wearing in Boston or what another family is wearing on the other side of the country and say, they're not fashionable. So I think it's like, it depends on where you live and what your priorities are. And if projecting, or being fashion forward makes sense in your life, I guess.
Some people, some Americans care about fashion, and the ones that do are fashionable, and the ones that don't care probably aren't. But I do feel, is it fair to say that American culture is less worried about fashion than some cultures, or is that an overgeneralization in your mind? It's hard because you live and breathe American fashion.
Yeah.
So you probably see a lot of investment in fashion in America.
I think to answer your question, I'm going to pivot a little bit and just say that I think it's not that America is less concerned with fashion. It's that Americans are very concerned with comfort. So, yeah. So
I love that.
And so that's open to interpretation. There are some cultures that, if you're going to go outside of your house, you're going to put on a nice pair of shoes and a pair of slacks and a nice button-down shirt. And they would look at Americans as being like dressed very lazy, very casual, very not well. So yeah, definitely, it definitely depends on where you come from and what's customary for you to wear outside of your home.
And it's also what we talked about at the beginning of the class, is that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. It's completely subjective.
I agree.
I see there's sort of a discussion in the chat. People say, yeah, Americans really, they don't look great. They're not fashionable. Other people saying, I actually like that about Americans. I like that they're not obsessed with clothing.
I will say, and again, I'm speaking through the lens of a New Yorker, I do feel that Americans have more, have a broader way of expressing themselves through clothing. So, you were describing 5 different styles at the beginning of this interview. And I think in America, people could come up with 300 different styles and ways of wearing their clothing. So we're very individualistic. So we often want to differentiate ourselves from the other people by the way that we dress, and by the way that we adorn ourselves, or the colors we wear, or the brands that we wear, or just sort of like pretending like we don't like fashion at all. So I think,
I like that. Individualism through style. That's definitely cool. Okay, we have 2 great questions. The first one is about celebrities. Have you ever dressed a celebrity that you're allowed to share? Or someone said, would you like to dress a celebrity or something? Did you design for a celebrity before? Yes. And then which celebrity would you want to work with? And I'll have you know that the students in this class and in Algeria tend to be very familiar with American celebrities. So throw the most random one out and we'll see if someone here knows.
Well, this is a funny question because I know at the beginning of the class you were asking me to introduce myself. I didn't really get into like the full breadth of how I got into styling. But before you're able to do this independently, a lot of times you have to be an assistant for someone as you learn the industry and all of how to prioritize and how to do this work. And so when I was an assistant, I was on set with Bella Hadid, and I did find her to be very, very nice.
Wow.
That would probably be like the most recognizable celebrity. I've worked with several musical artists in getting them ready for their concerts or for like a photo shoot in a magazine. But they're definitely more like up and coming young artists because that's maybe more interesting for me to work with. And would I like to style more celebrities? I don't think so, honestly.
Are celebrities different to style than like a model who it's their job? Like, does it feel like they don't really know what they're doing as much?
I think now that everybody can be like their own celebrity on Instagram and everybody knows how to take photographs and pose and their good side, their bad side. I don't know. I don't think that there's that much of a difference. And of course, if a celebrity is being photographed, it's typically, I guess I'm thinking about if it's an author or a movie director or an actress, it's typically for something promoting their work or, a story about them. And that job and that project is going to be very different from ones in which we hire professional models whose job it is to make the clothing look amazing.
I see. So the celebrities, the story is them, but with models, the story is really the style of the clothing. Your art can really shine.
Yeah.
Okay, there was two other questions that I was going to combine. People are asking, how does a person choose their own style? Someone else is describing like, when I go shopping, I think I like something, I try it on, I go home, I hate it. Do you have any advice just for the regular person who's out here trying to look good?
Yes.
What are some tips you have?
I think the best tip that I could give you is that when you go to a store, and maybe I taught myself this because New York City is very expensive. And when you're young, like just out of university, you can't buy everything that you like. It's too expensive. So I would go shopping. I would go to a store. I would try something on. And then I would leave. I go home. I go about my day. I go to work the next day or I go to sleep, whatever. And if I'm still thinking about that piece of clothing after 2 or 3 days or 4 days, then I go back and I buy it. Because there's so many things that we can try on that like might seem right in the moment. And that's like, sometimes you buy something, you go home and you're like, I hate it. I don't want to wear this. But I think if you're constantly mulling it over and being like, oh, and these shoes would be perfect with that dress that I tried on. And like, oh, I have that event and I wish I could wear that dress. Or like, I don't know. I think being patient with yourself and with your wallet, with your money, is a good way to figure out what you want to invest in. Yeah.
Very cool. So we have time, I think, for one more question. I have two very random questions. The one that just came in the chat. I don't know if either of these speak to you.
Okay.
Oh, there's actually more coming in. So someone is saying that they have a style, they're saying they have a goth style and they want to experiment, but maybe they're a little bit nervous because goth is a very defined style. It becomes personality. Everybody knows you by that style. Maybe you can give some advice about experimentation, like what can help us move into new styles? How do we, Algeria is a very family-based culture, so people will talk if you dress differently. It's not like New York. People ignore you. They go, that's weird, but they don't say it. In Algeria, they will say it. Do you have advice for how to deal with that when you want to experiment with your style?
I would say play dress up in your room all you want. That's, I feel like, what I did every day growing up. I would try on so many different things. And I think if you're, like trying to experiment with something publicly, is start small. I think you would be really surprised by what people are drawn to. I think that most people are interested in things that are a little bit different. And you can sort of, there's always a conversation starter if you change, like a color that you typically wear or a pattern. I'd say more often than not, that type of boldness, that type of confidence is rewarded. So just start small. And as you feel more comfortable, you can move into more expressions of your style.
Amazing. Well, Julia, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
This was a really interesting discussion for me as well. And this was a very active chat, which is always a good thing. I will say one last thing, which is people are asking for your opinions about traditional Algerian clothes. And I want to tell everyone in the chat, I will send Julia some traditional clothing and we'll get her thoughts on it. But I'm sure maybe one day we'll get Julia here to style.
I love that idea.
That would be very cool.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much for joining, Julia. We appreciate it so much.
Of course. Ciao, everyone.
Bye, Julia.
Bye.
All right, you guys. Thank you so much. I think that was one of our best, I should say, interviews. I thought it was fascinating to learn all about the stylist world in New York. We had a few things we didn't get to for today, but I loved the discussion. I love that we started thinking about personal style, about ways that we dress, about how to change them, how to express ourselves. That's everything. For those asking for Julia's, her Instagram account, I think it's on private. I will reach out and see if she's okay to share it, and we can share it afterwards. But you guys, thanks for coming. And I love the chat. You look good if you feel good. Anyways, it's always a pleasure. And I will see you next Tuesday night for business English for negotiations. Good night, everyone.